Hello, Dr. Greger. How are you?
We're gonna have a musical accompaniment.
No, that's going to be a lot of questions.
That's fine.
Not as much fun, but I just wanted to thank you for taking some time to answer some questions for the viewers, and also some of them wanted to let you know how appreciative they are of the of your website, where you go through all the studies and take the time to parse through all that for us.
Well, I'm honored to help out. I hope they're sharing it far and wide.
And I think we all share it as much as we can. Hope that people get the message. That's kind of why I'm doing this. I just like to keep passing the information along. Um, I was wondering what your thoughts are. There's a lot of the stuff we'll talk about, the studies and some of the things you've talked about, but um, at a higher level, what are your thoughts on calories in and out in general as far as weight loss is concerned?
I'm a believer in the laws of thermodynamics. Yeah, no. So look, people's metabolism are different. People's activity levels are different. Even just fidgeting. Some people just sit at a chair. Other people, they're always fidgeting, and that actually can burn a lot of calories throughout the day. So some people need a lot more calories than others. But look, if you lock someone in a room and you don't let them eat enough, they will lose weight. Period. And if you stuff them full of a lot of food, doesn't matter what they do, they'll gain a lot of weight. You can't outrun your mouth, essentially. I mean, if you actually, break it down, now they're doing some experimenting with like fast food calorie labeling, whereas like this burger, you'd have to walk this many miles to, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they're insane. I mean, like, it's like, oh, okay, well, I've got to like do a marathon tonight if I'm going to, eat this. I mean, our bodies are incredibly efficient. I mean, think about it, we would not have made it as long as we did if, if I mean, because we evolved basically in a context of starvation and famine, and so our bodies are really good about holding on to calories. Of course, once you plop them down into burger and fry country, that becomes a disadvantage.
In the high carb area, there's also some belief that some people will say that you can eat unlimited amounts, or that the carbs don't really turn into fat and that type of thing. That's why, and some of them are recommending like quite a high calorie intake, like 3,000 or more, because they think that they're saying that the carbs aren't really in the plant food world, in the high carb world, that you wouldn't gain weight in that. But that's that's partly part of the question, or the reasoning for that. And also, so what's your take on that general, the thermogenesis?
Well, if you overeat carbs, when I mean overeat, exceed your kind of daily caloric intake in carbs, you will build fat in the worst possible place, and that's in your liver. And so there actually, I mean, so this phenomenon in which carbs turn into fat happens, and it happens in your liver, and you can run into liver inflammation. So if you just drank soda all day, and you'd have to drink a lot of soda, but I mean, you could exceed your caloric intake, and you would your liver. You give yourself a week, and drink a couple liters of Coke every day, and your liver function test, which is a measure of liver enzymes spilling out your bloodstream because of the inflammation and cells dying in your liver. And you can do ultrasound. You can actually see the extra grams of fat that are building up in your liver. So that's one of the reasons why industrial sugars, high fructose corn syrup, and table sugar are bad for us in excess, is because of the liver toxicity. And part of that is actually the formation of fat in your liver.
But like in a healthier way, if people are eating, say they're doing like large smoothies with dates, and they can actually get quite a high calorie intake, or even a starch based diet, and it's a healthy, fruit and complex carbs.
Do you know how many potatoes you'd have to eat to get a few thousand calories in? I mean, there's only a certain amount of stomach volume. And the wonderful thing about whole plant foods is that they're so calorically dilute. I mean, if you look at a plate of 100 calories of broccoli, 100 calories of strawberries, you compare that to 100 calories of cheese or chicken or chocolate for that matter, you can see how you could eat a tablespoon of oil, get 100 calories, and you wouldn't even notice the difference, right? I mean, you have an oily taste in your mouth, but you wouldn't feel any fuller. Whereas you ate 100 calories of broccoli, all right, now you're, right? That's a big bowl of strawberries. And so there's only a certain amount of food you could stuff in. And so, I mean, that's the nice thing about eating whole food, plant-based diets. You don't have to worry about carb counting, calorie counting, portion control, any of that. In fact, don't even have to worry about nutrients. Am I getting enough zinc or am I getting enough iron? If you're eating a variety of whole plant foods, all that's going to be taken care of with the exception of B12.
Yeah. Some people were saying that they have trouble losing weight. They might be stuck at a certain point. What are your suggestions, assuming that they're doing the whole foods and the low fat type of approach? Do you have what do you think that that they can do? I mean, other people have said that people aren't always aware of what they're eating. There are problems in the diet themselves, and so there could be that aspect of it. But if they're eating enough calories and they're not really required to burn the fat, do you have any suggestions for things like?
So if someone eating, I mean, I know a lot of overweight vegans, but I mean, certainly, I mean, the very few compared to the general population, obviously. On average, BMI of vegans about 23.6, right? About where we'd like to see it, compared to 28.8, almost obese. It's standard BMI for most Americans. But I mean, the vegans I know are obese are not eating whole food plant-based diets. They're eating junk. I mean, it's funny. It's like the gluten-free people used to be really healthy. The people would go on a gluten-free diet and feel better because all of a sudden they couldn't eat a Dunkin' Donuts. It's like, all right, any food, any diet, like Atkins, any diet will make you stop eating donuts. It's going to make the average American feel better, right? But now, right, there's gluten-free donuts. Now, people going quote-unquote gluten-free don't feel good anymore because all of a sudden they just switch from one kind of junk food to another kind of junk food and they're still eating junk. Same thing with vegans. 20 years ago, vegans were healthy by default. What the heck you gonna eat? You gotta eat the apple because what else are you gonna eat? Okay, now we have vegan bacon grease. We have vegan cheese puffs. We have you can eat super as unhealthy as you want to eat. And so you can eat all the candy and garbage and deep fried whatever you want. And so someone comes to me and says, I'm having trouble eating weight, but I'm eating a plant-based diet. My first question is kind of junk food intake or empty calorie intake. And my advice to them typically is just gotta get out of your house. If you live in a family situation where you're able to just clear out your house, right? And I just don't bring it into your house, right? It's like if there's no junk in your house, if you get healthy, if you get hungry enough, you're going to eat the apple because literally there's nothing else. Like that's the yummiest thing in your house. Okay, so you're going to eat an apple. Fantastic. And you're going to be healthier for it. Now look, some people have, family situations where that's not possible, where they're always on the road and they're always tempted by all sorts of garbage. I mean, it can be difficult. It's totally understandable. I mean, we have a built-in drive to eat. And the more calorie rich, the better, right? I mean, that's why we seek out concentrated sources of fat and sugar because for millions of years, that's the way that we don't starve to death.
So if I can't see what people are eating, but if they say that they're eating like a whole food plant-based diet, is there anything at that level?
Yeah. All right. So if someone really is, so I ask people to give me a dietary record. So I'd say, okay, everything goes in your mouth, including water. Anything goes in your mouth, I want to know, right? And oftentimes people think, oh yeah, totally whole food plant-based diet, and but it turns out, they're pouring olive oil all over everything or something, whatever. And it's just like, well, that's not like a whole food, right? Like the oil doesn't grow on trees. Anyway, so So typically it comes out of just a misunderstanding. In fact, I don't think I've ever had someone that actually was eating a whole food plant-based diet that couldn't arrive at that. Although, look, it's possible. I mean, there are calorically dense foods: dried fruit, nuts and seeds, avocados, smoothies. Actually, liquid calories aren't registered the same way by your body because we weren't meant to basically drink our calories, right? Because calories didn't really exist in liquid form. And so it kind of bypasses. That's why we think drinking soda is worse than eating candy, even if you had the same amount of sugar, because like you're just getting all these calories into your system before your body can be like, whoa, wait a second. Wait, we just had 200 calories. Well, what? It's kind of too late to shut off your appetite, suppress your appetite. So, so theoretically, right, so if you're right, you ate lots of smoothies, lots of really calorically dense foods, and you ate all day and you had little activity, you could balloon up to any size you want, right? I mean, you could gain as much weight as you wanted to gain, but I think you just have to put some work into it. And so if someone was in that situation, I would encourage them to move towards less calorically dense whole foods. Again, this is not something I think is common, but okay, so instead of eating flour products, even if they were whole grain flour products, I encourage them to move to intact grains, which has a different kind of glycemic load. So move to oatmeal and brown rice, etc., as opposed to like whole wheat bread or pasta or something. Um, and you can even move away from grains entirely, move towards dark green leafy vegetables, which is basically the most nutrition, fewest calories you can get. Eat a lot of, non-starchy vegetables, have very few calories. I mean, you could just fill up your stomach with that. But I think it would just be kind of an unusual scenario. But, I mean, but yeah, I mean, that's what you do. And you could increase your activity levels. So typically, it'll also increase your appetite, and you'll eat more, but maybe you won't eat as much. It's always good to exercise, period. But yeah, I mean, it's possible to switch towards even more calorically dilute foods.
Yeah, I like the calorie density approach myself. Except that if you go too far, like to vegetables that it's non-starchy, that it doesn't give you enough calories. Like I generally follow kind of the starch solution. The what are your thoughts on some of the different approaches? Like Dr. Furman is more salads and that versus like a starch-based diet with non-starchy and some fruit. Do you have any particular
Well,
preference?
yeah, no, I mean, as you said, you have to get enough calories. Some people, when they start eating healthy, they're used to eating a certain volume of food on their plate. Like they've just grown up. Like this is what supper is. Like you look down and there's that much food. If you eat the same amount of food you used to be eating, you're going to become calorie deficient, like literally energy deficient. If people come to me and say, ever since I started eating healthy, doc, I just don't have the energy anymore. And when you actually look at their diet, they're not eating enough, right? I mean, they're just not eating enough food. And they're literally not, they're like starving themselves. They're on like these extreme low calorie diets, which make people feel miserable because your body is starving. And so, I have to tell them, no, you got to eat more food, like big food. And if you can't eat that much food, you got to eat more frequent meals. You got to have some snacks. You got to, right? And so, right, I mean, you have to eat like a wheelbarrow full of greens, right? To get enough calories for the day. I mean, no one just eats greens, but they're so calorically dilute. And so that's why I encourage people to eat whole grains every day, beans every day, etc. Because you need some kind of, just for sustenance. Otherwise, your jaw would get tired eating heads of cabbage before you'd get enough calories for the day.
Yeah. What's your thought on the white potatoes? I know a bunch of people ask me as far as health or even a preference, versus the other types of potatoes. Like sweet.
So colored flesh potatoes are better than white. So red and purple potatoes, where the actual flesh of the potato is these bright colors, is better than white. And sweet potatoes, in general, are better than white potatoes. And the best of the best potato is a purple sweet potato. Actually, a purple fleshed sweet potato. So guess what I eat? I get purple sweet potato. I mean, it's just like anything you can do with a white potato, you can do with a purple sweet potato. You can make fries, you can mash it, you can do whatever the heck you want. And so whenever someone asks, is food X healthy? The question, the answer always has to begin with, compared to what, right? So when someone asks me, are eggs healthy? The answer is not yes or no. The answer is compared to what? Compared to oatmeal? Of course they're not healthy. Compared to the bacon next to the egg, eggs are healthy compared to bacon. I mean, it would be better to eat eggs than it would be to eat sausage. Okay. So healthy compared to sausage, unhealthy compared to oatmeal. Okay. So when you say, is a white potato healthy? Okay. Compared to most everything that Americans eat, yes. Right? I mean, it's better than, almost anything in someone's shopping cart. All right? Is it better than a sweet potato? No. Is it healthy compared to a sweet potato? No. So foods always have an opportunity cost. Every time you put something in your mouth, you've just lost an opportunity to put something else in your mouth, right? There's only so much room in your mouth, okay? And so every time you put something in, you could be putting something healthier in, right? I mean, so that's how I think. And so you will never see a white onion in my house because red onions are healthier, okay? And so it's like, I mean, why would you ever buy a white onion if the red? I mean, right? I mean, that's why. And so, red cabbage, purple cabbage is healthier than green cabbage. So I always buy the purple cabbage. It's not that green cabbage is bad for you, but it's like, well, why not? I mean, it makes soups look a little strange, right? Makes them look a little muddy, but and so the same thing with potatoes. It's like people come over to my house, you'll never see a white potato. You only see sweet potatoes. You say, well, why are there only sweet potatoes? Well, you'll never see white sweet potatoes either, right? You won't see pale yellow sweet potatoes. In fact, you may not even see orange sweet potatoes if I can get my hands on those purple sweet potatoes.
Yeah, so people ask me that, and I always think like, I look at it pragmatically. Like, if they ask about white rice or anything, I'm like, well, you might have a lot of vegetables, and you're not eating meat and dairy anymore, and you enjoy the white version more than the other. Like some people don't like brown rice or whatever, and so I'm always saying, I try to say like it's not the best from a nutrient perspective or fiber or whatever, but it's better than other options. So it's like a continuum, right?
It's a continuum, and I'm glad you brought that up. That it's also maybe a vehicle for getting in good nutrition, and so that's how I view processed foods, processed plant foods. I would encourage them to eat, for people to eat them in the diet only as an excuse to eat healthier food. So if the only way you're going to eat stir-fried veggies is with white rice, and if you were going to have it with brown rice, you wouldn't eat it at all, well, then have it with white rice. I mean, God, it would be, because otherwise you're not going to get those vegetables in, right? Mm-hmm. I knew someone who insisted on Bacos on their salad. You look at Bacos, it's the worst. They're vegan, but it's like hydrogenated oil, red dye number 3. I have a video about the thyroid cancer associated with red dye number 3. I mean, high sodium, absolutely it's what's called an ultra-processed food in nutrition lingo. Okay. Otherwise, they wouldn't have salad. What do? I tell them, put Bacos on it. Jesus, put Bacos on your salad. If you're not going to have it, if that's the only way you're going to eat a salad, then put Bacos on it. So that's where I view the value of these kind of foods is only as kind of a vehicle to eat healthier foods, not in and of themselves, right? And so that's like the processed meats and things. Um, Rather than eating just a chunk, if you can use that as a flavoring or something to entice you to eat healthier foods, then I say go for it.
Yeah, that's good advice. You've done a variety of videos on coffee, caffeine, and I think the general sense is that it's a positive thing to consume. But other, I've seen other doctors that don't really advise people to drink coffee. I know you did a video where you suggested potentially tea instead of coffee. I personally, I'm 45, after 40 years or whatever of drinking coffee, I quit and had about 3 weeks of some pretty brutal side effects like headaches and lethargy and appetite increase and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of stimulation there, adrenals or whatever. So, what's your overall view of filtered coffee that most people drink?
So here we go again. Is coffee healthy? Compared to what? So, compared to green tea, no. So, do I encourage people to drink coffee? No, because every cup of coffee they're having is a cup of green tea they're not having. Unless you have two cups, right? They're one, and if you can do it with two cups, then you should have two cups of green tea instead of two cups, right? I mean, it's a continuum. And then look, green tea, white tea is probably healthier than green tea, and matcha is even healthier than chai is even healthier. There's all these levels. But in general, coffee is much healthier than I think most people give it credit for, particularly for liver issues. And I mean, I mean, I don't think people should feel bad drinking their coffee, but I would encourage them to explore ways to add tea to their diet because it may be even healthier.
Um, some you did a somebody was asking about osteoporosis, and I believe you did a video where you said it's not really the protein, like the acids leaching out the calcium.
Right?
It was something from the galactose in the milk. But what's your overall philosophy on osteoporosis and things that might help? Women a lot of times are the ones that ask me about that, but your general view of osteoporosis and things to do to help that situation.
Probably the most important thing is weight-bearing exercise. And so just like, if you're in a cast for a month and, your muscle withers away and atrophies, use it or lose it. Same thing happens with your bones. People think of bones as inert structures, right? And that's because we see skeletons, in like science labs, right? And that looks like it's just like nothing. It looks like rock or something. But actually, bone is living, breathing tissue. It bleeds. Bone. Doctors get to see inside people, but if you can see inside people, bone is living, bleeding tissue. It's got blood vessels in it. It's constantly remodeling. We're making bone and breaking down bone every single day of our lives. And and our body's not going to make bone if it doesn't need it. And so, if you are an astronaut and having absolutely no need for bone structure whatsoever, your body turns off bone production like nothing, such that astronauts come down and have severe problems. And so that's why there's all sorts of things they have to get on these crazy treadmills and these centrifuges, to keep their bones up. But that's how quickly your body's like, screw this. I'm not going to waste all this. Look, if you're not using it, I got other stuff to do. I got a long list of priorities, right? And so if you're sitting on the couch all day, your body takes bone health, puts it way at the bottom. It's like, I'm not going to, but if you're carrying around a backpack every day, right? If you have a heavy backpack on, your body is like, oh my God, this person must have just gained 40 pounds. We have to bulk up this skeleton. It makes your bones harder and stronger and bigger throughout your entire system. And that's actually done through really interesting. Like when you hit bone, it's actually what's called a piezoelectric effect. There's actually an electrical charge that's created when you stress bone. In fact, you can do it if you take out someone's bone and you torque it. You actually create an electric current. Very cool. Mm-hmm. And it's actually that electric current that is used as a bone stimulus. And so there's actually fancy things where with electrodes you can actually facilitate bone healing and all sorts of fancy medical techniques. But basically, that every time we hit our bones, every time we walk, jog, jump, and we hit our bones, we get this electrical impulse that goes up that tells the bones of the body, whoa, yeah, this person's actually using these things. We better start bulking them up. And so use it or lose it. People with declining bone health, I encourage them, put on, there's all sorts of fancy weight vests and belts and things, but look, carry a backpack, put some books in it, right? Every time you wake up, you put on your backpack and you walk around, do whatever you're doing throughout the day. I mean, you'll just get used to it, won't even notice you're there, but your body, your skeleton will know it's there and will bulk up your bones, increase your bone density because it needs to. Now, of course, it still does need a certain amount of raw materials. It does need enough vitamin D, so you should be going out in the sun for a nice midday walk. It does need enough calcium, probably 500-600 milligrams a day. But again, if you're eating a variety of whole, healthy plant foods, that's not a problem. And there's other things like boron and vitamin K and all these things, but boron found in flax seeds, vitamin K found in dark green leafy vegetables. It's not really a nutrition piece; it's a use it or lose it piece. Just like saying, I want to build muscle, so I eat protein. That's not how you build muscles. You build muscles exercising, right? Well, I want to have strong bones. I'm going to eat a lot of calcium. No, your body's only going to take that calcium and put it in your bones if it thinks it needs it.
So the lower amount or the increase in osteoporosis in North America, is that from like the activity, less activity?
There's all sorts so there's a number of things that play a role. So sodium intake. So eating a lot of salt actually causes you to lose calcium. A lot of caffeine intake can get you to lose calcium. Sedentary lifestyle can get you. There are certainly multitude of factors that are conspiring against our skeletons. But in terms of bulking it up, would be weight-bearing exercise.
What about thyroid? There's some people that are on thyroid medications, and they wanted to get off those. And there's also somebody who was taking Synthroid and wondered if they needed to worry about the RDA of iodine in that case.
There had never been any studies on thyroid function in people eating plant-based diets. Until very recently. In fact, this year, the Adventist study came out and showed there's a trend towards people eating plant-based diets having lower rates of hypothyroidism, thyroid problems. So it seemed to be kind of this trend towards better thyroid function. But of course, you can still get sick. People in general are like, but I'm vegan. How could I get something, how could I, sprain my ankle or get a cold or whatever, or even get cancer? And so when there's these studies showing you can eliminate, 96% of heart attacks or 70% of colon cancer or whatever, that's amazing. But there's still a 30% risk. The reason we put seatbelts on is not a guarantee that you're not going to die in a car crash. We put seatbelts on because it just lowers our risk. So we eat healthy, not because it's a guarantee something's not going to happen, but we eat healthy because it's going to lower our risk of bad things happening to us. Right? Okay. Anyway, so with hypothyroidism, even though people with eating healthy may have less hypothyroidism, doesn't mean that people are immune. It's an autoimmune disease where your own body, typically, when your own body attacks your thyroid gland, it can scar it up and decrease its ability to produce thyroid hormone. And the only thing you can really do in that case, if that's indeed the cause, is take thyroid hormone replacement therapy. It's just take enough thyroid hormones, like Synthroid, is the same hormone your body would have made if it could. You just bring your levels up to what your body should have been making in the first place. So it's not like a drug. People, it's not like some foreign compound. It's what your body would have normally had in it had your thyroid function been functioning as it should have been. So I encourage people to take their Synthroid, but unfortunately, if it is indeed that your thyroid function is permanently gone, then you're going to need to be on it forever. However, that's not the only reason people have underactive thyroid. So, for example, iodine deficiency is a reversible cause of underactive thyroid gland. And so, if you're diagnosed with hypothyroidism, underactive thyroid, the next question is, okay, well, why? And you got to find out why, because it may be reversible. And if it is iodine, then you just need to increase your iodine intake. And so, we should be getting 150 micrograms of iodine every day. How do we do that? The healthiest way is through encourage people to find a way to enjoy sea vegetables. And so what does that mean? So if you don't like sea vegetables and don't want to like sea vegetables, then, a half teaspoon of Dulse every day gets all the iodine you need. It comes in like little purple flakes. You won't even see it or taste it. Sprinkle it on your food and you're fine. Or you can do that with arame, same amount. The nori sheets, those like sushi sheets, tends to have a kind of a mild taste for even people that don't like seaweed may enjoy. Now there's all sorts of like fancy snack varieties. Unfortunately, they typically add oil, salt, so you make your own. There's all sorts of recipes you can Google for like, make your own flavored, nori snacks. What I like to do is I paint them with pickled ginger juice, and then sprinkle some wasabi. The kind of the radishy. It's actually a cruciferous vegetable. And then I just kind of re-crisp it up in an oven about 300 degrees for 5 minutes. Then you have this awesome snack that tastes delicious, and you're eating dark green leafy vegetables for a snack. You get healthier than that. And you get all the iodine you need.
On that note, since you mentioned some stuff that you're eating there, like some people, they're curious, I guess, what you might eat typically for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just generally speaking.
I have a whole section in my upcoming book coming out holiday, like December, January 2015-16, where I finally break down and say, fine, here's what I eat every day. And the only reason I've been hesitant is because it's like, well, just because I like something doesn't mean doesn't mean someone else would like it. I'm afraid someone would be like, what? You eat what disgusting vegetable? I could never eat healthy. Forget it. I'm eating my wings and getting back to my pepperoni pizza. So there's a lot of tastes involved. Just people have different tastes, and it depends on how you grew up, and people are like, you put hot sauce on what? Well, you don't have to, but so I'm just afraid, So that's always kind of, I don't know, been a concern. So that's why I've been hesitant in the past. But I've, shared some of my kind of favorite recipes, and I'll have a whole thing where I just go through, menu planning, if people are interested. But more, again, not as a template, what people should eat, but as a, just kind of satisfy people's curiosity.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be great. There's in YouTube and Instagram now, there's sort of a culture of what I ate today, and people, I get like, well, I don't like that type of onion. I'm like, well, use a different type of onion. Then I'm like, they say, how many potatoes do you eat? And I'm like, well, I have, if I make fries, how many potatoes did you make? How many did you have? And I'm like, I had 4 or 5 or whatever, but you don't have to, you can have more or less. So somebody said I would have had 3 plates of that instead of 1. I'm like, go ahead. Like, so it's funny. I want to help people see examples of what I eat, but it's definitely not like do this exactly. And even the quantities is just going to depend on their own personal, tastes. But you got to have a thick skin because you get a lot of differences in opinion on almost everything you could possibly eat.
Yes, indeed.
Let's see here. Do you still do the treadmill? I noticed you were walking a lot as you worked and things like that.
I wanted to do it today, but people always complain that I make people nauseous.
Yeah, you get the motion.
So I didn't want to make anybody seasick today. But if it was up to me, I would be more efficient with my time and on my treadmill right now.
I'll show you this thing I have under my desk. It's a desk cycle. This thing here.
Sweet.
And there's no motion, and I can type and still do all the stuff that I do. And it's magnetic from 1 to 8, and it's really quiet. So that's because there's no strap. It's not like friction. It's just using magnets.
Neat.
So a desk cycle, and
I love it. Now wait a second. Don't your knees hit your desk? I guess you put it far enough away, right?
Yeah, you can adjust. It's more of a little bit more. They say to pedal downwards, but there's more of a horizontal aspect to it. And they give you a strap that you can connect to your chair in case there's some shifting.
Right.
If it's on a slippery floor, but I do that mindlessly, and it's great because I don't think about it as much.
That is cool. That is totally cool. I love it.
I'm a guy that sits around literally play guitar, watch TV on the computer, and I don't really have any reason to move. And I don't like to do a lot of exercise. When I'm just doing exercise, it's kind of boring.
I'm with you.
So this is kind of work for me. Let's see. Omega-3, I know you've done some of these recently with Bite-Size Vegan, but I'm not going to go into all the details. But somebody asked if they can get enough omega-3 just from flaxseed, or they should do something else.
Okay, good question. So that's an unanswered question. So it depends on how efficient your enzyme system is. This delta-6 desaturase enzyme that elongates the short chain omega-3s like alpha-linolenic acid in flax seeds and walnuts and hemp seeds and chia seeds and dark leafy vegetables. It elongates those into these, longer chain EPA, DHA, etc. And so you don't know if you're the person with the really good enzymes or you're someone who just was born with not a great enzyme system. And so I think it's a legitimate conclusion to be like, well, look, since I'm not sure, I'm going to err on the side of caution and take preformed DHA into my diet. So I don't need to rely on my enzymes to do it for me. I'm just going to get in. So you can do a microalgae-based or yeast-based DHA, and then you guarantee you're going to get the amount of long chains that we would hope would be helpful for you.
Is that an oil or?
Yeah, so it's it's little, So if you're going to do that, I would recommend 250 milligrams of DHA and or EPA every day.
So that's the only kind of oil that you'd be okay with, as far as because we don't like the people generally.
It's like 3 drops of oil, right? I mean, it's just these are teeny little, yeah. When people, the reason you will hear people saying no oil, right, is because, just psychologically, it's easier for people to have 0 than to have a little, right? It's like when an alcoholic comes to me, I don't say, drink a little bit of scotch every day, right? Or when I tell smokers, I say, look, smoke only socially. Smoke, a couple of cigarettes every couple of weeks. I say completely quit. Not because I can give them evidence showing that smoking a few cigarettes a year is going to harm them. In fact, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't. I think your body could just heal and repair from that kind of insult. But it's because of the psychology of we have this all or nothing thinking that makes it easier for us to have these kind of black and white, And so the no oil is based on the psychology of eating, not on the science of if you actually did have a little oil, something bad would happen. It's only that we're afraid, all right, well, so it doesn't matter what you have on your birthday, really, or a Thanksgiving, really. It's the day-to-day stuff adds up. The concern is that, okay, if you had a cake on your birthday, with bacon candles or something, then, the next day that ripe peach would taste like cardboard because you just like so like super shocked your poor taste buds. And so the peach doesn't taste, last week the peach tastes great. But after that chocolate cake, peach, meech, I'm going to have some Fruit Loops. Then start you on this path towards crappy eating. But it wasn't the one cake that screwed up your diet. It's the fact that then that started you on kind of a slippery slope. So it really matters on your psychology. Some people can be social smokers and really get away with a few cigarettes a year. And for them, I'm not going to tell them quit completely because it doesn't really matter for them. But in general, I tell everybody quit completely. I tell everybody no oil, no oil, no oil, because most people's psychology, I think, is easier for people to, they just don't have it in the house, so it's not even an option. It's not even something they have to think about. And so, there's this concept called decision fatigue. That, the reason they put the candy at the checkout counter is because after making hundreds of little micro decisions of what you're going to buy, your brain just at the end says, screw it, and just throws up your hands, and then you're just like putting a candy bar in. You never just buy a candy bar if you just walked in the store the first thing, but by then your body's just like, your poor brain. And so the same thing with diet. The more decisions we have to make, should I use oil, should I not use oil, we're more likely to, in the end, just kind of throw up our hands and call dominoes or something. So that's kind of some of the psychology behind some of these recommendations. But I think people think that, like, wait a second, why they say no oil as if it's poison, and then they see their loved one sprinkling some oil on, they're like, and they like save them as if it's, when it's only, that strictness comes not from the science of that particular amount, but just the kind of more from the psychology of it.
Yeah, I've noticed that with the no oil and the fat you eat is fat you wear and that type of thing. You tend to demonize those things, and then you can get pretty critical of that if anyone eats that. It just seems to be, instead of being a little bit open to some of the fats that are healthy for you.
I got 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Let's see, what can I ask you? If you could talk a little bit of, when you're looking at the studies, how you evaluate them for their usefulness, as far as, you've got the epidemiological studies and the randomized control trials and things like that, and what sort of evaluations you go through to pick studies that would be.
So yeah, last year was a record, 24,000 articles on nutrition published in the literature. That's something I've never seen. Usually it's like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,000, 24,000. So, that's a great question. How do you choose? Like, even if I'm putting out a video article every day, that's just a tiny fraction. And so basically I use 3 criteria. One, is it groundbreaking? Like, is it new? Like a study comes out saying broccoli is good for you. It's like, duh. Like, I'm going to do a video about that? It's like, been there, done that. I don't care if it's new, breaking, crazy. Like, that's not going to teach anybody anything, right? If they don't know broccoli is good for you by now, one more video ain't going to do it. Okay. The second thing is it practical? Like, could people actually use what's in this video to change their lives? So a video comes out, so let's say the study comes out about the wonders of whortleberries, which is evidently some kind of berry that grows in the Siberian tundra. Like, you can wild pick it. And actually it turns out they're super packed with antioxidants, all sorts of great things. But I don't care how good the hell they are. If you can't walk into a supermarket and buy them, why is it? It would just be like teasing people. Like okay, if you can't actually use it to make day-to-day grocery store decisions, I'm not going to do it just for the curiosity value. And then the third thing is, can I make it interesting? And unfortunately, that's actually what cuts most of them out. I'll look at a study and it's important, right? Like it's actually showing something new and important, and it may actually have some like there's something practical about it. But if I can't like put some kind of twist on it or make it humorous or find some way to like make it interesting, it gets tossed in the trash. I mean, that's sad to say, but my thinking is that if I can't make kind of consistently interesting content, then in general people won't come to the site to learn the even more important stuff, kind of thing. And so, a lot of good stuff goes by the wayside just because of my limitation of not being able to think of some way to make it, kind of compelling for people. So, I mean, I think that's unfortunate. And even then, there's way too much stuff to cover. I wish people would do what I do. I wish there was like 20 nutrition facts, right? And just why isn't there an exercisefacts.org and a sleepfacts.org and a stress management fact? Like, let's review the science of making each other healthy. Like, I think that'd be awesome. I don't know why this hasn't been done before. It's like there's a tremendous mountain of evidence sitting there. In fact, a lot of it we paid for. It was taxpayer money, right? NIH. We paid for it. No one's ever heard about it. Why? Because Big Broccoli doesn't have it can't put it on TV. Right? So a new study about exercise or sleep, you're never going to see about it because there's no corporate budget driving its promotion. Same thing with healthy food. And so I'd love to see a lot more of that out there, and I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, well, we're really grateful for your work on NutritionFacts.org. And are there any other sites you want to mention, or I know you mentioned your book, but other websites that I can post on?
That's all my nutrition work goes on NutritionFacts.org. I encourage people to check out. Everything's free, no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up there as a public service, labor of love. And if people totally dig it, it's a 501c3 nonprofit, and they can make a donation and make it go it's kind of like a Wikipedia model, where it's like it's all free, but if you want to just say thank you, you're welcome to chip in a few bucks just to keep it going.
And you've got the DVDs as well, right?
Yeah, and all the proceeds from the DVDs and from the upcoming book all go straight back to the 501c3 nonprofit that runs the site.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Dr. Greger. I really appreciate it. That was great.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.